Demetrius Holloway and Rick Carter, even though they were friends, were as different as two human beings could ever be. Demetrius Holloway, had he wanted to be, could have been a CEO of a major corporation. He never drank. He never smoked. He laughed at people who used drugs. He was smart as hell, and he was cunning in a good way and in a bad way. But he was cunning in a good way, like Bill Davidson probably was to Bill Guardian Industries, and he was a leader. See, a lot of these guys they lead in the wrong way and they lead in the wrong business. But that personality trait, if they were in the military, they'd be a guy who become an officer. Demetrius Holloway would have been an officer in the military. If he went to a regular business and started working, he'd come up with a better idea about how to do certain things. He was a leader of other human beings, and he'd wound up as a manager or a boss.
Well, you know, Demetrius Holloway, obviously a whale of a dealer. Demetrius had met Eddie's old man and my old man, went at Milan. Eddie old man took Demetrius under his wing, introduced him to all the right people. And it's kind of like, you know, just like King Midas, as I was told, everything that he touched turned to gold. You know, and he hit the streets and he just blew up. I mean, and didn't just blow up. I mean, he started moving thousands of bricks. So anyway, you know, it's Eddie's father who had turned him on. And Eddie called him up and said he needed some money to do this, that, or the other. And we were waiting on him. And Eddie calls him up, and Demetrius is like, "Don't worry about it, little homie. I'm in your back door. Come out the back door." And we go out to the alley of Geneva. I didn't know it at the time. It was Maserati Rick who was with Demetrius. Demetrius is driving, and he comes through the alley. He's got a shopping bag. Gives Eddie a shopping bag. It's like $82,000 in it. Keeps it moving. He's just like, he handed him $82,000 like he was handing him $82. And he's just like, "Tell your pops I came through. You know, stay up, bro. If you need anything, just give me a shout." And he kept going. And yeah, that was like Demetrius was. He was like at his peak then. He was really moving the crowd then. Generous guy. He was very generous to his friends. Shame that he, you know, died in the tragic way he died.
Police tonight refused to release the identity of the man found shot at the Broadway clothing store. Friends and relatives of Demetrius Holloway gathered quickly after word of the shooting spread through the city.
They come running out and there's rain out. And I said, "Where's the key? Where's the key?" I said, "Well, hold on a second, sir. I'll get you the key." "No, I want the key right now."
Demetrius was just a regular guy. Demetrius, I think, went to federal prison for like robbing trains or mailboxes, some very low level, but yet still federal crime. And again, while he was locked up, he met Eddie's father, and Eddie's father just thought the boy, which he would prove to be prophetic and true, that he was a smart kid and that he was just misdirected, and if he ever knew how the real big picture worked, this kid could be good on the streets. And Eddie's father vouched for him, schooled him, gave him some mentorship, and he turned him on to the plug. And again, and Demetrius becomes the biggest thing in the city for, you know, from the mid 80s to the late 80s when he gets killed. And you know, he looked out for Eddie swell. He looked out for Eddie swell. And you know, somebody should really do a project on him. There's been projects done on him, but those people didn't really know the inside story. And it was just crazy because, you know, that was that whole best friends era, and unfortunately people's egos, and there was so much money floating around and the competition. But I didn't know Maserati. And again, the only time I really came in contact with Demetrius, my old man knew Demetrius because they did time together. But when he came and dropped off that money to Eddie in Highland Park was the only time that our paths actually directly crossed. And later I would hear about this guy, Maserati Rick, that worked for Demetrius or that was, you know, hustling with Demetrius. But it was a different clique. I had some family that was dealing with another guy, Big Ed Hansen. He also was running with Demetrius. But that was a whole little East Side thing, and those guys were making fortunes. They were, you know, everybody got beefed out with everybody. So I had a front row seat to that show, but I wasn't directly participating in that, in that little Detroit drama at the time. Later I would come to find out again, actually I was, but didn't know it because again, I had some family that was dealing with Big Ed Hansen, who was dealing with Maserati and Demetrius. Obviously Demetrius was looking out for Eddie Jr. And he was feeding a bunch of people who were very, very close to us.
Did Eddie hook up Demetrius with the Colombians?
That I do believe to be the truth. The plug, he definitely vouched for him, and it was told to me the connection that allowed him to really take over the town. He got that plug through Eddie. Demetrius didn't come from that world. He didn't know any of those people, definitely at that level. So it would take somebody of Eddie Jackson's stature to kind of vouch for a guy with no past reputation to say, this guy represents me, give him the bag. And he did, and they did give him the bag, and Demetrius handled it right. And again, he became the biggest thing in this. That is what I've been told by very reliable sources, that the arrangement was basically he got 1,000 keys at a time, and he had to pay for 660 of them. So that means 340 were on the house. They were giving him 1,000 bricks. His ticket is for 640 of the bricks. The other 360 are his. So do the math there.
Do you know what his price was?
No, but he had to be getting them for 11,000. He was letting them go for 13, between 13 and 15, depending on who you were. He had to make his money on each. So and again, I know that in New York and then with Mr. Q, big fellas were all in between like that 11 and 13,000 range at that point.
Okay.
But when you're getting 1,000 at a time, I can't speak with authority on that, but if you could get 13.5 and you're getting 20 at a time, what's your price if you're getting 1,000 at a time? You got to figure he's somewhere around 11, 11.5, 10.
No, Rick was the opposite. Rick was cheap and petty. He was all right to deal with, but he wasn't all right to deal. He was a pain in the ass, is what he was. And he liked to flaunt stuff, and walk around like he was a big shot, which in a sense he was, I guess. But it was apples and oranges, him and Demetrius. Anybody will tell you that. Anybody in the streets will tell you that.
But they knew each other from childhood.
Oh yeah, they grew up together. I'm saying they were close. I don't know if they were close because I wasn't with them, away from.
But they at least knew each other.
Oh no, yeah, they were. It was. I used to say to Meech all the time, Jesus Christ, did you guys live down the same street? Would you have a different kind of water in your house than Rick?
What street? Do you know what street those guys grew up?
I think they lived in the Brewster Projects. I think Demetrius came up in the Brewster Project. That's what I think. I don't know. His mother worked for the post office.
What cases did you do for Demetrius?
Every case he got from the day Demetrius Holloway walked in my office in 85. He died in 85. He walked in. I was still in the Lafayette building. He said he had a Fed case, felon in possession. He had just gotten out on bond. And he had just got out of jail, out of prison, federal prison.
Yeah, because he got out in 85.
And he had just got out on bond. And he came in and he said, look, I'm going to try this case. I've got a defense, which he did. I don't have any money, hardly. I've got, some $500, whatever it was he had. But my word's good. He says, you tell me the fee. It'll take me some time, but I'll pay the fee. And he was, at the time, literally had just gotten out of jail on federal parole. And there was something about the guy, I can't remember if it was drugs or breaking into boxcars. I can't remember. I don't think it was drugs. I'm almost positive it wasn't drugs.
So he got, in 85 when he got out, he was not at that point a drug king.
He was nobody. I'm telling you, he didn't have anything. He had $1,000 or $500. And there was something about the guy I thought he was telling the truth. And it was a tribal case, and I'm a sucker for trials. And I said, okay, we got a deal. And of course, this jackass examining me today would say, and you didn't have a fee agreement? I said, yeah, we had a fee agreement. We shook hands. And we tried the case, and he was found not guilty, Judge Woods. And he did exactly what he said he would do. He brought in, and then he paid the fee. And then as time went on, he only had, he had a little misdemeanor case, which was just literally cussing in front of kids, so I wouldn't even call that a case. That's just a ticket. He had one other drug case where the Detroit police planted some drugs on. There was no, I proved it. The jury was out 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Where, you remember where that was at?
Yeah, it was in, where the heck was he driving? It was near downtown. I think he was coming from his mother's. You know, I can't remember. We had the map too, because we used the map to show how full of shit they were. We had the map. We had so much evidence. It was unbelievable. And later on, I found out it was true that they planted it. Well, the facts were pretty obvious. This was, by this time, he's Demetrius Holloway Whale. And they claim he's driving down the road. I think it was down by the Fox. They followed him a ways, maybe on Bagley. I think, yeah, he was coming from the projects and was somewhere around over there. And they claimed he had like an 8-ball on him. Now, this is a guy who doesn't use drugs, which I know for sure. He's a whale. What whale is driving around with it? I mean, it might have been heroin. 12 dime bags of heroin or something like that. It was some ridiculous. Now, of course, you can't really defend. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this guy is a whale. He has kilos. But we did get out that they knew, you know, this was still when there was recorder's court too, so you had a more streetwise jury. They knew he was somebody to the police because that was part of the defense. It had to be. Because when people want to use the defense, the police planted it, the first question anybody asks, including me, why? Well, there was a why. This was Demetrius Holloway. And that jury, they were out 10 minutes, literally. And let him go. That's the only other case. They were working on a federal case when he got killed.
What did you think when he got?
Were you shocked?
Okay.
I mean, other than
When
the
you
shock.
heard he was killed at the Broadway, what did you?
I'll never forget where I was at the gas station. This is before cell phones. And I got a message from Joe Swickert, who still writes for the Free Press, and he was covering the courts at that time. And I called him back from the payphone. This was how long ago it was. And he tells me that he got killed at the Broadway. And I knew he went to the Broadway all the time. Obviously, so did the killers. What did I think? I thought within 2 hours. Certainly by the next day, I knew who did it and why, but
Milton
I'm not going to say. Oh, well, if you say so, yeah.
Well, that's who.
But nobody knew. They chased their tails on that case for what, 15 years?
Yeah, they didn't.
Everybody in the street knew who did it, and everybody knew who ordered it, and everybody knew why it happened.
Who ordered?
I'm not talking on that. They know, though. They know. They know for sure.
I mean, is it somebody that's around or?
He's alive, but they know.
Oh, Big Ed or something.
No. It had nothing to do with him.
Did you have ever cross paths with Big Ed?
Never once. He and Demetrius, at least anecdotally, were at war all the time.
And Maserati.
Well, Rick was dead. Yeah, because Ed sent the guy to kill him supposedly, right in a hospital.
What case did you do for Maserati?
Pistol case outside the skating rink over there on the east side, because he was the east side guy.
Didn't you say he gave you a leather jacket or something?
Yeah, a coat, because he owed me money. I won the case, and that's why I say it was cheap. It was a pistol case. He probably owed like $3,000 or something like that, and the damn guy would not pay. And it was always, I'll see you next week. So I typed up a motion to withdraw. He had another case pending, and I typed up a motion to withdraw, and I called the guy in that was from the east side. I said, take this thing. I wasn't filing it, but I said, tape this thing to the walls and the windows, like at the bars, everywhere on the east side, so people can see what a cheapskate Rick is. And the guy went out, and about 2 days later, man, what are you doing? I said, well, shit, you won't come in and bring me the money? Until he brought me a leather coat instead, which was fine. But
Paid you the leather coat.
he might have brought the money and a coat. Maybe that's what he did. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But I gave the motion. The guy said, go hang this up on the east side somewhere. We'll see. I'll get his attention.